Human beings are interested in the strangest things. Sometimes you just have to look at what's popular and really wonder, why does everyone care about this? Why is everyone interested in this? One of those situations is definitely true with ancient Egypt, because people in the West have been obsessed with ancient Egypt for like hundreds of years. And it's so weird because why not any other ancient civilization? We're a little bit interested in Greek and Roman civilization, but not like Egypt, right? I mean, you turn on the History Channel, right? What are they talking about? It's ancient aliens talking about how aliens built the pyramids and UFOs and, crazy stuff like that. But because of its popularity, our understanding of ancient Egypt is extremely plagued. It is plagued with misconceptions, stereotypes, falsehoods, and sometimes outright bias. And one of the most important elements to ancient Egypt is understanding the geopolitics of it. Because if you understand the geopolitics and how it interacted with its neighbors, you can really get a good grasp of everything else. Hello everyone, I am Eric Alden. Welcome to Our Dark History, where we discuss the darkest people, places, and events in human history. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ptolemaic monarchy, how it handled the nation state of Egypt, how it coped with being a small competitor of Rome, how it coped with other geopolitical states and players trying to get its wealth, its resources. Egypt was very wealthy, and there were a lot of people that wanted some of that wealth. And seeing how they handled this situation is really fascinating. But before we get into the episode, I just want to let you know, I recently did a Biocast episode on the life of Cleopatra. She was the last reigning monarch of Ptolemaic Egypt, this government we're going to be talking about here today. So if you're interested in this topic overall or just in general, a link to the download will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. Thank you so much. Let's get right on into it. So one of the most important things you need to understand if you want to get the geopolitics of Ptolemaic Egypt is the foundation. Who were the people that created this state, and what were their ideas? What was their worldview? And if you want to understand that, you have to look at Alexander the Great, because it was all started by Ptolemy, who modestly enough named the entire kingdom after himself. This is ancient times. Still not as bad as Alexander, though, who has 50 cities named Alexandria, all over the world. More power to him. Oddly enough, one of the most important cities in Ptolemaic Egypt is going to be called Alexandria. But really, this is important for one major reason. Because the people who created this ancient state, they were influenced by Hellenistic culture. They spoke Koine Greek. They had a certain religion, right? The ancient Greek religion. They practiced certain rituals, certain ideas, permeated everyone. And one of the other important elements, they conquered the native Egyptians, who had previously been ruled by the Persian Empire. So the people that actually created the culture, built the pyramids, right? These native Egyptians, they were basically just second-class citizens in their own country. I go more in depth on this in the Cleopatra Biocast if you're interested in how race relations and things like that worked. Long story short, the native Egyptians were just getting continuously conquered by other people. They just happened to live in a place where it was very economically prosperous, and it made it very, very valuable to be conquered. And if you don't have a state of your own that's strong enough to handle outside invaders, well, you're going to be subjugated. That's how politics works, unfortunately. And that's really important for the way politics work internally for Ptolemaic Egypt, because you have these Hellenic Greeks, Macedonians, hell, you even have some Jews in there. One of the biggest issues facing the Ptolemaic regime was the Seleucid Empire. So they were another Hellenistic kingdom founded by one of Alexander the Great's generals. So they were really, really expansionistic, just like anyone else was, but the Seleucids were in a strategic position because they inherited most of the land. They had land all the way as far east as India, right? They're in the east fighting the Maurya Empire, which is just kind of insane because, like, that's all the way in, like, modern day India, all the way to, like, modern day Turkey. Think about controlling all the land in between those two countries. Absolutely insane. Part of the reason that they're going to fail in the long run, but that's their problem. So they were the next big rival power in the area because they governed really well, they were smart, and there were some smaller conflicts between the two kingdoms, but it never got too bad that there was an all-out war. They never outright conquered one another, but there were definitely times they wanted to. One of Cleopatra's ancestors was actually an ancient Seleucid queen who married into the Ptolemaic monarchy, and that really did a lot of good for the relations between these two states, because otherwise, man, they were probably going to kill each other. They definitely wanted to, because, you know, human nature and power and stuff. Now, the Seleucids definitely presented Ptolemaic Egypt with a lot of problems. A lot of problems over the years. But no one was as big a problem as Rome. So let's look at some of the ways that Rome influenced the Ptolemaic monarchy. So they were extremely expansionistic, but they did accept bribes. So if you were wealthy enough to buy your own freedom, they oftentimes accepted that, but you had to be insanely wealthy. You had to have a lot of money. And one of the reasons that the Ptolemies were able to buy their own autonomy was really because they had all this wealth from the Nile River. Herodotus wrote that he believed that the people that worked the Nile, like, they didn't have to work for any crops. Like, the crops, they just grew themselves, man. The plants, yeah, they just multiply. You throw some seeds down, you come back in a few weeks, and man, you got a bunch of plants. That's what he actually believed, because it was just such a prosperous spot. And that was why the Ptolemaic monarchy was so wealthy. They had all this surplus wealth, but as much wealth as they had, they were not going to be able to buy their freedom forever, because Rome had a bit of an appetite. And this is the way they've been described by another Eastern monarch. Quote, "The Romans had the temperament of wolves. They hated the great kings. Everything they possessed they had plundered. They intended to seize all and would either destroy everything or perish in the attempt. And even if you had all this money, it really did not matter. I mean, look at Carthage. Now this is right around the time that Carthage had been completely destroyed. Rome wiped them off the face of the earth. Ptolemaic Egypt could bribe the Roman politicians with wealth from the Nile all they wanted. But Rome, they wanted more land. They wanted more money. They wanted more power. And it was just a matter of time before Egypt was on the chopping block. Rome very recently annexed all of Libya and Cyprus. Now Libya, not too important. But Cyprus was Egyptian land. That belonged to the Ptolemaic regime. They were in this horrible, weird position where they're having their land stolen by Rome. And Rome is like, well, we took some of your land, and if you don't want us to take all of it, well, you're going to have to pay us even more money. So they steal your land, and you have to pay them more. This was the difficult position that Ptolemy XII was in. Now, this is Cleopatra's father. He's one of the last Ptolemaic monarchs, and he's kind of noted for being horrible, right? Because he was in this really weird, weak position where he just has to keep sending Rome money. He's in crazy debt to them. He's like, listen, I'll give you everything I got, everything my country's got. Just don't invade. Let me be the ruler. And it just doesn't work, because eventually he gives them so much money that his own people turn on him. So here's the story about Ptolemy XII's exile. Rome takes Cyprus away from Egypt. They just march in one day like, yep, this is our land now. They tell Egypt, you're going to pay us even more money. You're going to thank us for stealing your land. And the situation is so bad that Ptolemy's brother literally kills himself. The dude is so stressed that he's like, listen, man, Rome is invading any day. They're going to kill us. They're going to do horrible things. I'm just taking my own life. I'm out. Peace out, dog. So he does that, and then Ptolemy the 12th doesn't even address it publicly. Doesn't say a word, not a single word. And then he starts sending Rome even more money. So Rome took your land, they caused your brother to kill himself, and then you're sending them more money to do it. They're basically thanking Rome for doing all these horrible things. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. It's just a horrible position that they were put in. And really, Ptolemy had no other choice because, again, if he said no, they were going to topple his regime anyway. Well, he gives in to Rome every chance that he can. But then his own people turn on him. He gets exiled. For 3 years, 3 long years, he has to live outside of Egypt. He's in Rome. Of course, where else is he going to go, right? Go with his buddies there. Now, eventually, they do put him back into power, but he doesn't live very much longer. He ends up dying. So it was kind of all for nothing. Unfortunately, he was just in this tough position. There wasn't really anything else he could do. And at this point, Rome is officially the guardian of Egypt during Cleopatra's father's reign. So he gave them everything that they really had, anything of value at least, and he secured their protection. But it came at a serious personal cost. But then a couple years go by. So there's Caesar, the Roman Civil War. There's chaos going on in Rome. No one knows what's going to happen. Who controls Rome matters a lot to the people in Egypt because, well, that determines whether or not you're still in power in your own country. So Caesar comes on in and, there's the famous story about Cleopatra and Caesar sleeping together. Cleopatra sneaks in on a rug. And it's just a weird story. If you want to hear more about that, go listen to the Cleopatra Biocast. But for the sake of this episode, all you need to know is that Cleopatra and Caesar, they sleep together. And Caesar basically promises her, Rome's not going to invade you. Keep paying us this money, and we'll let things go. And Cleopatra was smart, because what she did was she went out of her way to be popular with her own people. I actually even compare her to populist leaders today, because that's kind of what she was. She wanted the local people, the small town, the nobodies, to feel like she cared about them. Now, she may or may not have actually cared about them. There's always that debate, whether she actually did or not. But she at least made them think so. But here's the problem, though. Caesar gets assassinated. When Caesar dies, Cleopatra loses her protection. There's no more guarantee from Caesar. If Rome decides tomorrow that they're going to invade, you don't have a powerful friend over there to stop them. And that's a very difficult position to be in. So eventually what happens is Roman chaos, but what emerges from that is a new style of leadership. The big players in Rome are the Second Triumvirate. And really, 2 people from there. There's Mark Antony and Octavian. And here's the difficult thing about starting a triumvirate. They almost always devolve into just civil war. Everyone is a power-hungry maniac during this time. And, you work with some people, it might boost you for a little bit, but man, sooner or later, they're coming for your throat. That's just the way it works at this time. And Cleopatra makes a bad decision because she partners up with Mark Antony, sleeps with him, starts having his kids. She picked the wrong guy, though, because Octavian's going to be the one who controls Rome. He eventually even uses Cleopatra as propaganda in the Roman Senate that, we need to start a war against Mark Antony. Because Antony, he's hanging out in Egypt. He kind of likes the Egyptian lifestyle, the climate, whatever it is. Likes being around Cleopatra. So he's not in Rome that much anymore. The Romans don't trust him. Octavian's basically able to convince everyone, yeah, we need to just invade Egypt. Mark Antony's getting a little too comfortable over there. He even gave his Egyptian children all of his wealth in his will, which he actually did. And it was just this crazy situation. And when Rome declares war on Egypt, there's nothing Cleopatra can do. There's nothing Mark Antony can do. That was the end of Ptolemaic Egypt. And this really demonstrates one very important lesson from Ptolemaic Egypt. If you are within the sphere of influence of a powerful neighbor, and they want you, they want your country, they want you out of the equation, they're going to do it eventually. They are going to do it eventually. You can buy them off. You can bribe them. You can, basically subjugate yourself to them. Doesn't work though. It does not work. Appeasement does not work. And this is really the same situation that, was going on during World War II. If you're a weak nation, a weak, small little country, and you're right next to Nazi Germany, well, just a matter of time before they're going to come on in and take your country and take your money, and you're going to be part of the empire sooner or later. Does not matter how nice you are to them, how much money you send them, they're coming for your head eventually. And that was Rome during this time. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, you can check out the Cleopatra Biocast episode in the description. No ads. It's free. It's a really good episode, and I hope you really enjoy it because this is just a really fascinating topic. So thank you so much for watching all the way through, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.